Billions of people live on this planet, and every day millions of those people die. It's a natural part of life whether we like it or not. For all its history, mankind has tried to come up with ways to soften the pain of mortality, but immortality has remained elusive. Although many things have been tried in the quest for immortality, none are so practical and surprisingly promising as the science of cryonics. Cryonics is the practice of freezing the body of a person who has just died in order to preserve it for possible resuscitation in the future. While many are not familiar with cryonics, they are familiar with the term cryogenics. But like many things, the field of freezing has two faces. Pete Pauline founded and runs 300 Below, a cryogenic tempering service in Decatur, Illinois.
We are as similar to cryonics as baking a cake is to heat treating and processing steel. There is no similarity.
From its headquarters and production facilities in Decatur, Illinois, 300 Below Incorporated provides a unique cryogenic tempering service for industrial manufacturers across the nation. Established in 1991, 300 Below is founded on innovative research into the effects of extreme cold temperatures on certain metals and other materials. It was discovered that by realignment of the molecular structure, products achieved a hardness and durability that could not be accomplished in any other way.
Well, 300 Below started with very humble beginnings on a very solid foundation in a small town in central Illinois, and really was part of the American dream, where you can truly start in your basement with a credit card and work your way up to building what we now have as a very viable company in operation for a long period of time, processing well over 1 million pounds of steel a year. And that American dream is alive and well. This was shot of the planet Saturn and the rings. Well, that was the Cassini space probe, and we actually did the stress relief and stabilization of the optical bench on that satellite. Really? So as it takes those pictures, it's kind of nice. The interesting thing about that is we did it 7 years ago, and it took it that long to get so that it could send those photographs
now
back.
You've reached all the way out into the solar system.
Isn't that something? Yeah, kind of neat. Right now we've got some oversized components that are running, and you can see this. Take a look up inside here. Now, we don't have any human bodies or mother-in-laws or heads or things like that in there. This is an actual process that's running right now. And as you can see, the current temperature here is at minus 288 degrees. Our set point and temperature will be 300 degrees, and it's currently going to that set point, and then it will turn off. So it's all run by a computer.
My name's Dean Grieve. I'm the marketing director for CryoBarrel, which is the gun barrel division of 300 Below Incorporated. And the main thing that we do here is the cryogenic treatment of gun barrels. It actually increases the accuracy of a firearm. So in a shotgun, it helps eliminate the pattern shift. And in a pistol or a rifle, it'll help eliminate the stringing and walking from multiple fired shots.
We are as far from cryonics as you could possibly be. We are in the permanent steel and wood and plastics and things like that versus living tissue. So we really don't have anything to do with that whatsoever, but it's a common misnomer. And we do get calls periodically from people wanting to know if we can freeze dry their cats or their mother-in-law or something along those lines, but no, we don't have anything to do with it.
To me, I really don't see how you can take a head and put it in liquid nitrogen and freeze it, and then 20, 30, 40 years from now, bring it back to life.
Based on what I know in physics and the physics of our business, I don't see much hope for it in the future. But it preys on people who have a fear of dying and a hope of coming back and a checkbook that's ready to try and fulfill that.
Cryonics started in what you would probably call the most likely place: science fiction.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
In 1931, author Neil R. Jones published a story called The Jameson Satellite,
And in that story, this Professor Jameson arranged to have his body placed in Earth orbit after he died, where the author mistakenly believed he would be near absolute zero and would be preserved. And millions of years passed by and humanity died out, but eventually an alien race came by, some wandering aliens came by, advanced aliens, and they found him and they revived his brain and put it into one of their bodies, and he became one of their companies and went on to have a series of adventures.
This novel twist on immortality would have remained science fiction if one man hadn't taken it seriously.
So immediately the author had missed the main point of his own story, because if it made any kind of sense that it might be possible for aliens eventually to find a frozen human and revive him, then we didn't have to wait for aliens, and we didn't have to restrict it to one eccentric. We could do it ourselves and do it for everybody who was interested, and hope for revival a lot sooner than millions of years.
Robert Ettinger went on to start the Cryonics movement with the publication of his book, The Prospects of Immortality.
Then in 1964, Doubleday published the first commercial version and expanded version, and then that was followed by several other editions, including foreign language editions and so on.
This book solidified him as the father of cryonics.
People are making the decision to do that. There are companies that are in the process of promoting the business of doing that.
I would rather take my chances with the possibility of a hereafter where I could be with my family as I know my family.
What happens when that occurs is, I think it would be a scary thing.
After legal death occurs, which is to say that the heart is still beating, but there is still brain activity, the patient is packed in ice for transfer to the location where the preparation will be performed.
Well, this is a perfusion room. This is where, the patient would go on a table and replace the blood with the cryoprotectant solution, with the antifreeze solution, before we cool them down and put them in liquid nitrogen.
Ben Best is president of the Cryonic Institute in Clinton Township, Michigan, a cryonic organization founded by Robert Ettinger.
Obviously, your chance is better if the damage is less. So we do the best we can to minimize the damage. And we are doing that, and we are making progress.
After they've got the cryoprotectant and then we cool them down, and what we have been doing in the past is been putting them in this box here. The Vasilis does this. So you can see this is very well insulated. See, look at all this thick insulation. So we put the patient in here and pack dry ice around and cool down to dry ice temperature, which is minus 79 degrees Celsius.
What does that do to their skin? What does it do to their body? What's going to happen when the molecular structure changes?
And we cover the patient with dry ice and then just gradually lower closer to the liquid nitrogen. It's not like we put the cryoprotectant in and then we throw them in a tank of liquid nitrogen. They'd shatter if we did that. So we have to have a slow descent. Having the right cooling temperature is sort of an art. If you cool too fast, you'll get a lot of cracking and shattering and a big mess. If you cool too slowly, there's still too much damage to the cryoprotectant and so forth that happens by cooling too slowly. As the patient gets closer, the temperature drops until they're very close to liquid nitrogen temperature, and then they get stuck into one of our cryostats. Just like you use a thermos bottle to keep something cold or warm. These are really efficient. We've got the cost of storage down to about $100 per patient per year in these things. These older ones, it's more like $200 or $300 a year, or even $400 a year for the very least efficient.
So do you understand
Yeah, there's still patients in all of them, yeah. R10 means it's a 10-person rectangular unit. HSSV is hard shell soft vacuum. And that's R14, that's got 14, that's the largest cryostat in the world. Not that there are very many. We got 6 patients in each one of these. It's a foot thickness between the inner container where the patient is and the patients are and the outer wall. And in that foot, instead of a vacuum like a thermos bottle, we've got a substance called perlite. That over there under the blue is our the first cryostat that held Mr. Edinger's wife and mother. And just last night we removed them from there and put them in one of these big ones. You know, just like a hose, you just turn the valves and let the liquid nitrogen flow and fill up the cryostat.
Here the patient is maintained until reanimation is possible. Whose boat?
That's our neighbor, Guideline Mechanical.
Yeah.
We borrowed their forklift last night when we were moving the patients, and so they let us, or we let them keep their boat on their property.
How does that work out with the neighbors around here? Do you ever have any kind of conflict with of what you do here?
Well, I don't know. Well, I haven't heard any grumbling. It's surprisingly, or I don't know, just some people can get shocked, but at least the people who come in, some of them are pretty enthusiastic. It's kind of funny. Delivery men come in and they say, hey, I think it's really great what you're doing here, and they'll be quite interested. And I talk to the guys delivering like milk and nitrogen in the trucks, and they're interested. They don't seem to have any gripe about it or anything.
So generally you don't have people with pitchforks trying to kick you out of town?
We haven't had that happen yet.
Personally, I don't think I would really want to do that, because you take my head and bring me back to life 50 years from now, I'm not going to know anyone.
Because I wouldn't know anybody when I woke up.
What's the big deal about dying? I think it's the pain associated with dying.
That's a big risk. That's more of a risk than blackjack.
Yeah, I want to see what happens.
Because I want to live.
Why do you think I'm smoking?
What do you do if you find yourself a stranger in a strange land, all that kind of stuff, people say, well, I wouldn't want to wake up and I'm all alone in a strange society and my family is gone, my friends are gone, my relatives are gone, poor little me, what's going to happen to me?
Well,
you don't have to be alone because in many cases, people in cryonics will be accompanied by friends and relatives. In my own case, my mother and both my wives are already patients here. Most people, most of the time, adjust.
Let's do the anarchy two-step. Sweep the nation with a new craze until it's bought and then we're done. When did rebellion lose its fun? Maybe I'm lost and maybe I'm bought. You can change the world or let it rot. Is this demented or am I insane?
no matter what your opinion of cryonics is, people all over the world are already trusting their past, present, and future to it. Because no one has yet been revived, what sort of experiences lie ahead for those who have chosen cryonics is anyone's guess. But it is an experience many consider worth the effort to achieve.
No big scene, no